it helped our defense. It was four-corner offense, and until we have a chance to recruit on the national level and have comparable talent as everybody in our league, we're going to base our offense on what's best for our defense. The second thing that we based our offense on, well, what was best for our offensive line. How could our offensive linemen be successful? If you look at any program on our level or your level, the worst athletes on the team are your offensive linemen. You have to give them a chance, in our opinion, to have some success. And so as we looked at our roster when we got to Nashville, our offensive line was by far the worst group of athletes we had had on our team. We felt that if we left them alone, the base block, it was probably the worst thing we could do. We had a combination block, we run the option, I'll show you some video, you'll get a feel for what kind of offense we run. But we couldn't leave them alone. We had to help them with the option and with combination blocking. We were 1-3 this year. We were going into the Duke game. And our quarterback at that point had been a kid named Marcus Wilson. And he was a good quarterback, but he was not secure in the football. He constantly would get tackled and fumble the ball, and either the ground was causing the fumble, but we were turning the ball over way too much. We went into the Duke game where we felt like we had matched up. We felt we could go in and match up with Duke. And we changed quarterbacks because I was scared. I had become very frustrated with how much we were turning the football over. So we changed quarterbacks. We put a kid in who could throw the ball better than he could run it. And we got away from the option a little bit. And we ran more I-Pro and I-Twins most of the game. So we went into, we wound up coming out of the Duke game. We had lost the game. And as we studied what we had done on Sunday after that game, in watching a losing effort, we found out again that our offensive line really couldn't hold up. We had asked them to do something they couldn't do, and that was to block somebody by themselves. And so the following week, we went right back into what we've called the I-bone and our combination blocks and our double teams, and got away from the I-Pro game. Now, a couple brief things, philosophy on coaching the offensive line. Number one, I believe in two offensive line coaches. I don't believe one guy can do it as well as two can. Now, the size of your staff, obviously, is a problem. I'd say colleges, half the country works with one offensive line coach and a GA, and the other half of the country works with two offensive line coaches. I think, and I've done it both ways. I've coached the offensive line by myself, and I've coached tackles and tight ends with the guard and center coach. And I don't think there's any comparison. And I think every high school staff, as well as college staff, could be structured so that you have help. Even if you only had one offensive line coach on your staff, there's someone that coaches defense that could come over and help the guy who's the primary offensive line coach. So I feel real strong about it. On a college situation, the other reason I like it is coaches change jobs. When you lose an offensive line coach and you've got to replace an offensive line coach, your meetings don't stop and your football doesn't stop. The one offensive line coach teaches the new offensive line coach where we're going and how everything's going to be addressed. I think they've got to be your best teachers. Our tackle tight end coach is a guy named Hal Hunter, played at Northwestern. He's as fine a teacher as I've ever been around. He's very detailed. He's very specific. He coaches on the run on the field. He's very aggressive. The other thing, and I know that sometimes you're in a situation where you may have a problem with it, but I think it has to be resolved, is I think you need to video every practice. If you watch college video and you see the high press box angles, it's obviously a lot better than the press box that you filmed from. The one film that is the same is end zone tight line film. And if I was a coach who had not, especially an offensive line coach, whether the head coach wanted to do it or not, as long as I had his blessing, if I was an offensive line coach, I would find some kid in that school that I work at to video the back of the offensive line. I don't see how you can teach it and coach it without the benefit of the film. One of our coaches, one of our graduate assistants is going to leave this year and take an offensive line job at a school that does not video practice. And he's going to make sure he videos it. I talked to the head coach who hired him and said, you know, he wants the video, and he said he's more than welcome to if he can find the resources. And I think he will. because he's going to be the offensive line coach by himself. He's going to coach tackle to tackle by himself. And I don't know how in the world you can do it without the benefit of the video. Plus, I think it's the best way to teach. I think if I'm coaching the offensive line, I want a video practice, I want to coach them during practice, and then I want to meet with them the next day. Even if in a high school situation, if it's 10 or 15 minutes, I'm going to sit the kid down in the office and I'm going to go through the video. And what takes an hour practice or an hour inside drill, or 25 minutes inside drill, if I'm talking to one kid, I can be through that whole reel of film or that whole video in 15, 20 minutes. I believe kids learn better when they see themselves, especially offensive linemen. They tend to be leaders. They tend to be workmen-like, blue-collar, lunch bucket guys. They'll find time. If you find time for them, they'll find time. They'll come in at 6 in the morning, most of them. And as long as you have video. I don't believe they'll want to come in and hear you lecture. And I don't believe they'll want to come in and watch you go to the board for an hour. But I do believe they'll come in, sit down with you, and watch themselves on video and coach every step. And so philosophically, that's kind of how that's why we run the offense we run, is because the poorest athletes on our team are offensive linemen, by far, by far. We have some that their assignment on our triple option is to get out of the way. Just move. And we have trouble finding two guys to do that sometimes. But just get the hell out of the way. And they're limited. But I think you can coach them, you can video them, and they can improve on their technique. But what's important to me about this is the technique part, where it says proper development and utilization of technique will allow you to dominate the defender in all situations. Quite honestly, your defensive linemen are your better athletes. So you're constantly trying to close a gap between a poorer athlete and a better athlete. I think one of the ways you can do it, or one of the only ways you can do it, is through technique. I talked to a kid who played offensive tackle for me at Colorado this week, who's playing in the pros now. And he talked about how it's changed, that most of their time is spent on assignments. This professional club that he plays for. Not a lot of time spent on technique. They're almost as if they're expected to know the technique, and the fronts change so often. They see so many multiple fronts where they have to spend more time on that. We take the opposite approach. We take the approach that the fronts are not going to change very much. You're either going to have a 0, a 1, a 2, a 2-hour, whatever you call your different techniques, and you're going to have to apply a technique, your technique to their techniques. Execution of assignments, basic progression. Within the framework of an assignment, the following sequence must be understood. I believe strongly that an offensive lineman must know the theory of the play. He doesn't have to know specifically everything about the theory of the play, but an offensive lineman should know that 38 is an outside option and 34 is a fullback play. And the reason an offensive lineman needs to know that is as he approaches his assignment, it will have an impact on his decision process, whether he should stay on the inside number or whether he should stay on the outside number. He should have some feel for where the ball's going. Alignment, stance, approach, contact, and follow through, I think are all probably no different than anyone else does. They're all self-explanatory. But I think you have to teach them the theory of the play. You'd be amazing, and Mac taught me this at Colorado. If you want to know what a kid knows, put him on the board. And it'll be depressing, because you're up at the board, and you think you're coaching up a storm, and you're one of the best teachers there is in high school, college, football, and then you ask one of your big fat guys to go to the board, and they can't even put a formation up. You know, they tend to live in tunnel vision. And so I think you've got to get it out of them. I think the theory of the play is very, very important. Know the offense, thorough knowledge of every play, scheme, the total play, reaction to the defense, be aware of particular plays that are set up to take advantage of an individual, a defense, or a game situation. Number 4, I think, is critical. I think number 4 is critical. For instance, we won't get into this specifically with our offense. On our double option, the front side offensive tackle must block the front side inside linebacker unless we have no play. And so to just say to your offensive tackle, you are assigned to the front side inside linebacker is not enough for me. I think you've got to tell that kid, look, Herbie, Unless you block the front side linebacker on 38 and 39, we have no chance to gain a yard. And that's not true of every play. That's not true. If you say that every play, they're never going to listen to you. But if they're aware of particular plays that are set up to take advantage of an individual, like double option is to take advantage of the front side linebacker, then you have to explain it to them. Most importantly, know your assignment in regards to the play thoroughly, the what, why, and how of your job. Okay, now the first block that I want to go through is we use it on our triple. It's just a double team, but it may or may not be a little different than, does that work?
You want to try it?
Yeah.
I'm going to focus. There you go. Should be rolling, Coach. Yeah, it's running.
Yeah, this thing, I don't think this thing's plugged in now. Okay.
Let me try that thing in the back.
Do you have the cap for this so we can, because
Yeah,
if you,
I can shut that off.
yeah, but don't, if you keep shutting it on and off, the bulb will heat up. If you have that cap, then you don't have to worry.
Okay, I'll go get the caps.
Okay. Okay, so the double. This is a scheme we will use with the center and the play side guard. Our emphasis is on movement of the nose guard. Stay on the nose guard. Okay, so we are not trying to bounce off on the backside linebacker. Okay, we are trying to stay on the nose guard. The reason is the play that we use this with is the triple, and I've got one on the film. If we wind up giving the football, if we're reading that tackle and we wind up giving the football, the backside backer is not a premium. The nose guard's a premium. When we first put the triple in, we would try to bounce off the front side guard on the backside backer, and against the better teams, the nose guard would be back into the play by the time that guard bounced off, and we gave the football because it was a give read. When we gave the football, he restricted the fullback more than the backside backer did. Plus, the idea of the thing is to gain 4 yards. The blocking scheme is, thank you, the blocking scheme is designed to gain 4 yards. The backside linebacker is the difference between 4 yards and 12 yards. The nose guard can keep you under 4. The backside backer can't keep you under 4 in this particular play, which I'll go through. We will use this technique on triple option versus a zero nose or a shade front side. Steps, center will step, play side, and bring the second step upfield, scrambling the front side leg of the nose guard, exposing the hip of the nose for the guard. We try to get on the hip a lot. We talk a lot about the hip. We try to get our shoulders and our hands on the hip. So what our center tries to do is he just tries to scramble the nose so that the nose fights in that direction and has got his hands on the center so he exposes the hip. And if we can get our face mask, our hands, and our shoulders in the hip and rib area, then the nose is gonna move. Center stays square, shoulders upfield. Guard step upfield at the hip of the nose and low pads. Punch the hip as he tries to escape from the center. You must step upfield at the hip, keep your shoulders square. Watch the center on the hip of the nose guard. Watch how the nose guard moves. Before he gets on the hip, the nose guard's holding in there, holding point. Here's the same one from the rear angle. The guard steps under himself a little bit on his second step, but his first step's pretty good. His first step's pretty good. His second step can be more up the field. The center, by getting his head placed side and scrambling, the center doesn't have to worry about the backside guard, because if we have to, we'll triple that thing. The center always knows he has help both sides. We're not trying to bounce off and kiss off on the backside linebacker. Same thing here, right guard and center. White, look at the center's head. Now his face mask is down. His face mask should be up. And the reason we're so low with the center is to get the nose guard's hands on the center to expose the hip and the ribs of the play side guard. Yeah, let me show you the rear.
Would you mind sitting in a chair, dude?
Is anyone sitting here?
On shoulders, we can't sit. Thank you.
Same play from the other angle. The center's got to get the nose guard's hands on his shoulders. Watch the left hand of the nose guard. He's got him. As long as he's low enough that the guard can get on the hip. The guard's a little high. The right guard.
Coach, you talked that play side guard about trying to turn the nose or just trying to take him downfield?
We're just going downfield with them. Now, we're going to talk about a power where we're doing the 3 technique where we want to get them horizontal. But this is more of a vertical double team because if you can get in the way of the backside backer, it helps the play. Right here. Now, see, the other reason we can stay on, the nose guard is because we've got a veer tackle. See, when you run the triple, you gain a blocker. So the blocker that we have gained is the front side tackle. So the front side tackle can wind up on the backside backer, and that allows us to keep the guard and the center on the nose guard. If we would try to bounce off too quickly, we'd be in the same boat. We're playing against better players, and they're just going to wind up playing the double team better. So if we can tell the guard and center, you do not have to bounce off to the backside backer, it gives you more movement on the nose guard. Here's the same play. See, now this right tackle, the right tackle is going to wind up blocking the middle backer. So there's no reason for the right guard and the center to come off. Now that right guard's too high. He should be a little bit lower, and he really should be locking out his arms a little better. The next block is the same play, but going into a 3 and a 5 technique. We see this defense quite a bit. We're still seeing the Eagle defense. And when we run the triple here, we're reading the R. He tells us whether we're going to give the football or pull it. And so the technique the power technique is a double team on the 3 technique, but now we want to move him that direction. We don't care very much for vertical movement. It's horizontal movement so that if he gives us a give read, if he takes the quarterback, then that fullback can attack the inside shoulder of the Eagle backer. That's the theory of the play when we run the triple to the 3 and the 5 technique. So the power, again, we're not trying to combination block as much as we're staying on the thing through the whole play. Guard and tackle double team. That's the definition of a power for us. Inside blocker, who's the guard, set step with the outside foot and aim for the outside number. So that right, if it's a right guard, if I'm the right guard, I'd be here, I'd set step with my outside foot. Same approach as outside base block. So we've already taught him the outside base block. So the guard now has to take the outside base that he's taught and apply it to the power block. Outside blocker, lead step with inside foot and eyes aim for defender's hip. Again, we're on the hip. We're trying to get on the hip. Roll over, lead step, the same as you do with a gap block. So if that tackle was just gap blocking down on a 3 technique, which we have already taught him, we don't like to use it because he's by himself, but it's a gap block that he's using. So the offensive guard, if I'm the offensive right guard, I'm outside basing. If I'm the offensive right tackle, I'm gapping down on the hip of the 3 technique. Contact, inside blocker, drive eyes and hands into numbers with same body position as outside base block. Outside blocker, make contact with eyes and hands at defender's near hip. Trying to, a lot of times we see the block. You know, a lot of kids will close their eyes on contact. And so I think you can coach their eyes to try to keep their eyes open on contact. I believe your second step in your eyes block movement. Every time someone slants a tackle and we've got somebody base blocking them, we usually wind up on our hands. And it's because we don't see it in our second step. So we try to coach a lot about the eyes and exploding the eyes and watching the block as it takes place. Follow through, inside blocker, strain upfield with using outside base techniques. Now, where did I go? I'm contacting inside blocker. Drive eyes and hands into numbers with same body position as outside base. Outside blocker, make contact with eyes and hands at defender's near hip. Follow through, inside blocker, strain upfield using outside base technique. Work for leverage and use power steps. Outside blocker, continue to drive through defender's hip and create horizontal movement. Again, so we're trying to move the 3 technique down the line, not off the line, to separate the read from the 3 technique. Now, versus a 2-eye, here's what we've done versus a 2-eye, and it's been good, and it's helped us with this block. One of the ways we see people trying to defend the option is they take a 2-eye and they put them there on an inside backer. And now the question is whether you take that tackle and you inside release him for the front side linebacker or you help the guard. So our decision was always to help the guard. If you've got a pretty good guard, you can base block him, you can still read him and pitch off the will. If your guard needs help physically, then what we've done, and it's been good, is we've told that guard to set step inside. We're reading that guy, to set step inside to make him defend, whether it's cut off, and to make him play the A-gap. And now the tackle comes through with a gap step. If that hip disappears, then he can go for the backside linebacker. If that hip shows, then he stays on it. So the big coaching point for a guard versus what we call a 2-eye is to sink the 2-eye. So if I'm the offensive right guard, and I've got a 2-eye shading me inside, my first step on a power is to sink the 2-eye, to force the nose guard to play the A-gap, whether he thinks it's cut off or whether he thinks it's base block. So he knows where he's getting his help from. He's getting it from the outside. Hey, this is an example of a give read. Watch the nose guard looping. This is the double with the center and the right guard. The reason we don't want to try to bounce off of it. This is a give read. If we had given the ball and the right guard had bounced to the backside backer, that he'd have made the play and the fullback would have been a factor on it. The right tackle is who we're reading. He loops out, so now the double team becomes the premium block on the 1 shade. Okay, now versus a 0 nose. Now the center, again, he's getting help. This is double team. The center's getting help by both the backside and the front side guard. So we're putting 3 guys on the nose guard. We know one of them will come off on the backside backer. But the center will never come off the nose in this case. So it winds up being the right guard off on the backside backer. See the center? Now the center hardly touches anyone. But I'd rather have him leading hard. Okay. I'd rather have the center do that than if the nose guard played front side, not to get any movement.
Coach, the first step to play side guards, is that up the field?
Yes, this is a poor step.
Yeah, just use the search back. Come on, go back.
Yeah, it should be up the field. See how he steps underneath himself? It should be more up the field. Okay, now we're going to power the right guard and the right tackle. We're going to double team the 2-eye or 3. We're going to read the 5 technique, and we're going to pitch off the next guy. The end zone will be better look at it.
If you want to search back, Coach, yeah, you can.
Okay, we're watching the right guard and the right tackle. See the right guard? He should step inside. Now, he gains too much ground in that first step, although it's not bad. He should just set step, roll off his left foot, and his right foot should be up the field more. The right tackle's pretty good first step. He's a little high. He ought to be on the hip. That right guard, I believe, is Ryan Bell from Catholic Central. If it's 72, I can't see his number. Both guards are from Michigan in this game. Jason O'Connell from Country Day and Ryan Bell from Catholic Central. Same thing now. We're going to power the 2-eye to the left. Let me go to the end zone. It's better film. Okay, here's a 2-eye now. So that left guard should set step with his inside foot, sink to 2-eye. The tackle should check the hip. If the hip goes away, he can go for the backside backer. If the hip shows, he's got to stay on it. That's good by the right guard. Now the center's wrong. The center should just be up the field blocking the backside linebacker. But all we're trying to do is separate the read from the 2-eye or the 3. The read's the guy lined up on the left tackle. But no one's blocking anybody by themselves, which is good for us. Right guard and right tackle versus a 2 or a 3. We're reading the down lineman on top of the right. Oh, we're going to the tight end here. All right, so we're powering the 3 technique over the left guard. We're reading the down lineman. It's lined up over the tight end. That's a little bit better by the left tackle. He's a little high. If he got on the hip, there'd be more movement. That guard, really all that guard's doing in this one is setting him up. He can't get any movement. This was good. We didn't gain too much yardage here. Killed the clock. Left tackle, left guard. See the left tackle? He's too high. He's got to be more in the hip and the rib area. Left guard's first step's good. His head's got to be up. We're seeing a lot of stack defense. And on our base I play, which we run probably more than we run a triple, we combination block the center and the guard, the right guard in this case, on those two. And we call it a slow slip. We give the ball, the fullback blocks him, we give the ball to the tailback, and he goes opposite the Mike backer. And I think you've got to, and we do, you've got to explain that to your guard and your center. The guard and center has to know who the tailback is reading, because if the Mike backer goes that way, then that tailback's going to cut it all the way back. That's all the tailback's looking for, is the Mike backer. So it dictates some of your center and your guard decision process, because what we're trying to do on this is we're trying to get movement by the nose, and then at the last minute we're coming off on the Mike backer. So the center and the right guard are going to block the nose and the middle backer. We call it a slow slip. Versus stack defense, we will use this combination between the guard and the center to block the nose and the middle linebacker versus a stack look. So it really, this technique in our offense really only fits one play versus one defense. But we see it enough. This technique we only put in a couple years ago. We have not been doing this for a long time. Steps, the center will step play side and bring his second step upfield with no pads. So if I'm a center, I've got a one shade on me right here, and the play is 12. I'm going to set step, play side, my second step comes upfield. My guard is going to be, he's going to set into this nose guard, and his second step's going to be up the field. So we should be hip to hip and shoulder to shoulder on the nose guard. The center will step play side, bring second step upfield, getting movement on the nose. Alert, the difference in a slow slip and a double is the center will stay up. So now the center he doesn't scramble on this. He wants to be up. Guard steps will be the same as a double, with the exception that now you will eyeball the linebacker and come off and block him after you get movement on the nose. Alert, awareness of linebacker in 12 and 13, stack. Okay, so we want to get late push. The premium on this combination block is movement and late come off on the linebacker. This is one of the better things I think we do, combination block. Okay, the tailback's reading the middle backer. This will be better from the end zone. Okay, so we're looking at the left guard and the center. They're going to block the nose and the middle backer. The center should step. The right guard's first step's too far up the field. It should be more lateral. Otherwise, he's going to be on a little different level than the center. The center has more trouble moving than the guard because he's got to snap the football. The center's got the toughest job up front. That center really comes off faster than it usually does. But see what happens to the nose guard? He turns. See, what's he playing? He's playing double team and allows the center to come off and get on the backer. We don't usually get on the middle backer that quickly. Center and left guard on this one. Tailback reads the middle backer. That's well done by the center. They both get into the nose, they get movement, and as soon as the linebacker declares and steps up, the center comes off him. That's well done. The guard's footwork, he should set with his right foot. He probably could take a little bigger step. Center's got to stay square, but you can see how he starts to turn and then squares up. I think that when you first put it in, your centers will have a tendency to turn a little bit. Center and left guard again. All right, center came off too soon. He doesn't get enough of it. He doesn't get enough of the nose before he comes off. See the tailback? He's just going to read the middle backer. The block of the left tackle and the block of the fullback are not premium blocks. There's not a lot of pressure on those two blocks, which is good because they're two one-on-one blocks. So if we can put the pressure on the combination block, it's going to help us. Same play. We're going to block 45 and 48. Center's head's down a little bit. He's got too much weight forward. And that center actually comes off too soon. Watch the guard. He winds up just barely stopping penetration. Okay, zone block, where the guard and the tackle are going to block the tackle and the inside linebacker. And we've got two of them. We've got this combination. We use it on a belly play, we use it on a fullback play, and our base option. If we want to give the ball to the tailback up inside, we take these two people and we zone on those two people, and we call it a slow or a power gate. If we want to pitch the ball on an option and get the ball outside, we just call it a gate. If we want to give the ball to the fullback, we just call it a gate. So if the kid hears gate, he knows that it's guard and tackle in combination, but it's a wide play. The ball is going to be pitched. If he hears slow or power gate, then he knows the tailback's getting the ball up inside or the fullback's getting the ball up inside. So it's a combination block between those two, and if we add a word, it tells the kid where the ball's going, so it should help in his decision process. Okay, so we're just talking now about the slow gate. Outside blocker, replacement step with inside foot to the crotch of the defender. So he takes his inside foot. So if I'm an offensive tackle and I'm working in combination with that guard, I'm going to take my inside foot to the crotch of the defensive tackle, knowing I have help inside. So it allows me to do that. Your aiming point is eyes and inside hand on the base of the defender's outside number. Lead the defender hard outside, and don't worry about your inside. Your inside is protected by your inside blocker. Inside blocker. Drop step with outside foot. Drop step with outside foot and replace the outside blocker's inside foot. So if I'm the right guard, my tackle's taken. If I'm the right tackle, I've taken my inside foot and I've come to the crotch of the 5 technique. If I'm the right guard, I want to drop step and replace the left foot of that right tackle as he picked it up. I want to be on a little different level than the tackle. I don't really want to be on the same level as he is. Anticipate veer charge of the defender. Your aiming point is eyes and outside hand to base of defender's near number. So that's the inside number of the 5 technique. Stay on your outside blocker's hip. Contact, outside blocker, roll over inside foot that took a replacement step and drive inside shoulder and hand through defender's outside number, simultaneously squaring up with an outside step. Okay? So I want to drive through him with my inside number. Inside blocker. Roll over outside foot that took the drop step and drive outside hand and shoulder through the defender's inside number, stepping upfield with the inside foot. So if I'm the guard, I drop, I roll off this foot, I step, and I try to get on his inside number. The premium is on movement, not on pursuit. On a power gate, the premium is on moving the down lineman, coming off the linebacker late. If I'm the offensive tackle, I split his crotch, roll off, and my second step comes up the field, and I'm on the inside half of the 5 technique with my inside arm and shoulder. So we should be splitting the 5 technique. Okay? And basically, here's the combinations that happen. If the 5 technique plays it straight, and that's one of the reasons you want the guard on a different level, so that he can see if the 5 technique plays wide, he can still work up and get inside out on the linebacker because it's an inside play. So if that 5 technique stretches, we just want to stretch and stop penetration. That backer now should try to keep his outside arm free. So as I approach him, we know, because the play called for a power gate and not a gate, that I should be inside out on the linebacker. If they slant out, same thing is true, except now the tackle, especially if it's an option play where the quarterback will keep it, if he slants out, he's got to really fight to try to keep him from penetrating the line of scrimmage. And then the guard has the same proposition he had with the inside backer on that one. If they veer now, and it's a power gate, I still want to get on the outside number of the veer tackle. Now, sometimes on a fullback play, we've been forced to kick it out, but not by design, because it's too hard of a cut for the fullback if we kick it out. We used to try it on veer, if it was a power gate, to blunt it and then just turn inside out on the linebacker. And it was fine. These 2 guys were having some success, but the fullback could not cut it back far enough and fast enough. So we wound up changing it this year, and on a veer now we're still trying to get outside number of the veer tackle. You can do it both ways. But the fullback, who we were giving the ball to the most on this scheme, was having difficulty. This is the tailback going right. Okay, now the right tackle actually should come off, and he doesn't. That right tackle should come off late on the linebacker, but it's an inside play, so his decision is just to stay on the tackle. This was a fun night here. That's first quarter. These guys are good. See, that right tackle really should come off. Now, if it was a regular gate and not a power gate, then that tackle would have to come off. Otherwise, it would be a serious problem. But since it's a power gate, he should know the ball's going inside, and he may think that guy is just over-scraped for the fullback or tailback play.
Which I thought when that defense was a base look that your back was going, your guard, I should say, was going inside out on your back. And your offensive tackle was staying with it. That's not correct?
No, not on a gate. No, let me make sure I understand the question.
I understood that if that defensive tackle was playing at base, the offensive tackle was coming off, staying with him, and your guard was going inside out on that back.
Yeah, but yeah, if that tackle plays straight,
Yeah.
yeah, but he veers here, doesn't he?
Maybe I wasn't watching.
See, I think that's a veer. I think they see that as veer. Yeah, we run the tailback play more into the veer tackle and the fullback more into the outside play and tackle. I think I've got a bunch of them where the fullback gets the ball to the outside play and tackle. This is to the left. This is left guard, and left tackle. Into a 4-eye. That's a pretty good step by your left tackle. He's taking his inside foot, splitting the crotch, and then your left guard drop step's pretty good. So he's on a little different level, which doesn't really have an impact on this, but it would have an impact when the 5 technique plays C gap. Again, the guard should come off here. The guard is wrong. The left guard should come off on the back, or the fullback winds up blocking him, but it's really not the fullback's man. That's good body position on the veer tackle. Now, the guard's got to come off on the linebacker. Now, right tackle, right guard, that's well done by that guard. He's on a different level, and I don't know how he saw the tackle played in the C gap. But I think the fact that he was deeper than the tackle probably helped him. Okay, same play. That right guard, that's the O'Connell kid from Country Day. Okay, again, here's the problem with trying to kick out the veer tackle, and that's why we went to cutting his outside leg. It didn't show up so much in the tailback play as much as it showed up in the fullback play, not being able to make the cut because he had to make it sooner. So we've changed that. Okay, now here's the belly play. Now you'll see it go more to the 5 technique where he goes out. Okay, that 5 technique on this play usually plays out, and the guard usually winds up inside out in the linebacker, right there. So you've got 2 zone blocks. The only guy blocking anybody by himself is the tight end and the backside tackle. The tight end's block isn't critical. The backside tackle's block is critical. We're a little bigger split than most people at combination block as well. That left tackle should be stepping with his right foot. He steps with his left foot. Left guard's first step is good. He should climb, hip goes away, climb inside out in the linebacker. Tackle tight end. We run this play a lot. Belly option, whether we do it at a pro formation or whether we do it at a 3-back. But there's a need in our offense for a block between those 2 to the backside backer. We call it Tate, tackle and tight end. So it's the front side tackle to the backside linebacker. And so that combination for us, I didn't draw the play, is Tate. It's just a belly option where the guard logs him, the fullback seals him, and we pitch off the strong safety. Okay, so that's really the place where this block fits into our scheme. And so we call it a Tate. And all the principles are the same. Inside blocker, set step with outside foot to defend his crotch. So now it's just, now if I'm the offensive right tackle, I've got a tight end, I've got a 4-5 technique, I want to take my outside foot, I want to set it to his crotch, my second step comes up the field. And then if I'm the outside blocker, I set step with inside foot to defend his crotch. Okay, so now I'm the tight end, I want to put my foot in his crotch as well, and now I want to work upfield. So if I'm the tackle, I'm the right tackle, I go here and here. If I'm the tight end, I go here and work upfield. And we want to get movement Outside blocker, set step with inside foot to defender's crotch and drive top of inside shoulder and base of hand to defender's near numbers, eyes to armpits. Now, the only thing, the biggest coaching point in this one that's hurt us the most is having the front side tackle check for the front side backer. Their assignment is to go back to the backside backer. They want to get movement, they want to push, and they want to come off on him late. If he runs through, now that tackle's got to come off right now. And so one of the hardest things to teach is for that front side tackle to get movement on the 5 technique, feeling that he's going to come off of that backer, and then all of a sudden Mike comes. Because Mike comes a lot faster than you come off for who we call the eagle backer or the buck backer. And so that really is the most difficult thing about that combination block. But everything else is the same. I'm going to take my outside foot, I'm going to set to his crotch, I'm going to take my inside foot, set to his crotch, get movement, and come off him late. It's really the same as a power, except it's usually versus a tighter alignment. We see more 3 technique. When that guy's a B-gap player, we see him splitting the guard more than we do. When that guy's a C-gap player, we see him more head up than we see him splitting the crotch. So it's the same principle, it's the same blocking, except usually against a little tighter alignment. Okay, this will be belly option to the right. Go to the end zone copy. Okay, belly option to the left as we look at it. So you got tackle and tight end blocking linebacker and backside backer. If he veers, then the tight end climbs to the backside level right now, which is what happens. Watch the center. The center comes off on the front side backer. The center should go for the backside backer. See, what they were doing is they were moving their linebackers with the motion. And that's why we went to this play. We motioned one way and ran the option the other way. But as the linebacker's moving, that center loses track of who he's supposed to be Georgian to. So the tight end climbs, blocks levels, but winds up blocking the center. Okay, tackle and tight end on the right side. All right, now the right tackle's footwork is terrible. He steps with his outside foot outside, which he shouldn't do because his help is coming from the outside. His help is from the tight end. So the last thing that tackle wants to do is step with his outside foot outside. He can either take his left foot and set in and then drive his right foot through the crotch on the second step, or he can take his right foot and put it in the crotch. The one thing he doesn't want to do is what he does. You should never get beat inside when you have outside help, because you should always protect the inside. That's dumb football by the right tackle. Really dumb. He's getting help from the outside. He doesn't need to step outside. He needs to protect his inside. Bad news is he's back. Tackle left tight end. That's better. Tackle steps inside. The tight end's a little high. That's good step by the tackle. And he's splitting the body. So 43 splits. Men, see why you need combination stuff? I mean, you think 43 was a defensive lineman in high school? He was probably the leading tailback in the state of Georgia. Now he's playing 5 technique. Tight end should set step inside. He steps under himself a little bit. It's not terrible. But watch how high he is. He's too high. If he's in the ribs and on the hip, we're going to get more movement. We don't get enough movement up. If you don't get movement up the field, that front side tackle will never get to the backside backer. I'm going to go a little bit on the backside now. Combination between the guard and tackle, and then combination between the guard and center. You know, a lot of things, especially us in the situation we're in, something we constantly harp on with our offensive line is penetration. I think, you know, we're what we call an eye-bone team, and the way we set the game plan up is this. If someone's going to defend us as an I team, they're going to try to penetrate, because that's how you stop. Yeah, I got stuff in there. If you want to stop our eye attack, and the one play that we run the most is the ISO, which we'll go through, you want to penetrate the line of scrimmage. If you want to stop the option part of our attack, then you ought to be playing on the line of scrimmage. So we try to set up the game plan so that as early as possible we can try to evaluate what the defense is trying to stop. The last game we played, they made an effort to stop our ISO, and they beat us up pretty good because our ISO was the play that we went to more than we went to the option. We should have went to the option a little bit sooner. But we talked to our offensive line about penetration a lot. Penetration will kill our offense, as it does most offenses, because as long as they're playing on the line of scrimmage, we can run the option and the eye game. If they penetrate, then it really hurts our ability to give the tailback the ball, which in effect separates us from a traditional wishbone team. And so as we go through all these techniques, our footwork and our approach to it is everything is based on trying to stop penetration. And I think you're going to see, especially with the success Washington had this year, I think the trend in college football, which probably means that it's going to be the trend in high school football, is penetrating defenses. I think you're going to see linebackers walking up all the time. You're going to see the defensive line charging, kind of what Miami's been doing and what Washington did this year. And so for us, anytime a defensive lineman penetrates, especially since we feel a lot of times that the defense is more athletic than our offensive line, we've got a problem. So backside, what we call a TED block, is a block between the guard and the tackle on a backside zone. And it happens some versus a 3 technique, which is an outside shade on a guard. And now with the new stack defense, we're seeing it versus a lot of 4-eye to the tight end, which is some of the film that I have. But on the backside, the inside blocker, who's usually the guard, or always the guard rather, especially on which usually is a 3 technique, he takes a replacement step with backside foot to down defender's inside foot. So if I'm the backside guard and I've got a 3 technique shade me, I want to step with my outside foot to his crotch. I want to try to stop penetration from the backside. If he's a 4-eye and a stack look, then I'm going to step to him, and I'll show you that. I'll show you that on film. Eyes, outside blocker, drop step with inside foot to replace inside blocker's outside foot. This, I never used to drop step. When I was at Colorado, we had a kid named Vanderpool who was a great athlete, or better than average athlete at that position. I never would teach drop step, and then wherever I was teaching, come game time, he would drop step. So he kind of showed me that it was more efficient to do it that way than the way I was teaching it. So we drop step with our inside foot with the outside blocker. So if I'm the offensive right tackle and I'm in a right-hand stance, I want to drop step, and actually we wind up crossing over most times and then open up on the 3rd step. They cover more ground if you let them drop, cross, and open than if before I would let them both drop and cross. So that backside tackle on this TED block is more, versus the 3 technique, is more almost like a pull than anything else. It's drop, cross, and then open. You gain more ground that way inside than you do if you don't drop and cross. Contact inside blocker, drive eyes and backhand through defender's forearm pit and contact and continue to sprint through the area. It's the inside blocker's responsibility to stop immediate penetration. It's the inside blocker's responsibility to stop penetration. That's where the stress is. If we get penetration, we have no chance. Outside blocker, step upfield with your next step, and by the 3rd step, you should be driving your eyes and backhand through the crease between the defender and the lead blocker. Okay, so it's almost as if he's rounding out his course as the outside blocker of the 2. Follow through inside blocker, continue through area, do block levels, linebacker. If down defender locks onto you, block him, and the outside blocker will climb to linebacker. So if I'm the guard and I've got a 3 technique and they're trying to protect the linebacker to a point when I drive inside and he's holding on to me, even if he's outside of the guard, you've got to tell the tackle to continue on for the backer. On the backside, it's not as simple as where the hip is and where it isn't. Because a lot of times the 3 technique will hang in that guard and he'll hold him and not let him through. Then this guy, even though the hip is showing backside, has got to go for the backside linebacker. And then I think if that's happening, I think you have to do something with play selection as well to stop the outside linebacker, stop the 3 technique from doing that. Coaching points, this is an area block. So both inside and outside blockers must be disciplined in their zones. The term slow can be added to make a slow TED. The inside block will take a bigger piece of the down lineman, and the block will be made of a removed technique rather than a contained technique. And that has a lot to do with the 3 techniques holding us. If the 3 technique is holding us, then we don't want to slow up the guard. We almost want to race the tackle through that area, and even if the 3 technique is on the outside hip. Teddy is a 3-man zone. It's kind of come and gone out of football, but we were seeing reduction when all 3, the nose guard, the 3 technique, and the 5 technique was slanting. And so when they were returning out of the reduction defense, then we had to get the center involved in a 3-man zone. We haven't been doing as much of it, but that's what that last thing refers to on the Teddy. Here is ordinarily last year, for instance, at Colorado, we would just zone the backside. We would have the tackle try to come through and cut off the rear tackle. At Vanderbilt, we didn't feel like that tackle had any chance of success doing that. So versus a shade nose away, if we had a shade 4-eye, then we combination block the backside guard and the backside tackle. So this is a TED block, but it's a TED block versus a 4-eye, which we in the past had not done a lot of. But because we felt it was better for our personnel to do it that way. Because you are at some risk, obviously, if that linebacker runs through. Let me go to the end zone copy. See, there's a 4-eye. Now, your decision is to zone with the guard and center for the nose and the backside backer and put the tackle on an island, or put the center on an island and zone through the backside. We felt our center was, if anyone had a chance to block someone by himself, it was the center. Our poorest of our poor athletes is at tackle, and so we decided to help him in a situation that we usually didn't help him. That right guard is wrong. He MAs. He should not be double in the nose. Watch the front side backer. Number 50 steps up. So that center really was assigned to block that shade nose by himself. We were cutting off with the fullback, we were cutting off the center's block. The guy who needed the most help was the backside tackle. See who makes that tackle? The backside linebacker runs through the hole and then chases down our running back. That is not a good sign. Look at him. He runs through the hole, around, and tackles our running back. He's probably faster than that fullback. Okay, this will be the right guard and the right tackle versus stack. Now to us, that stack defense, that guy's no more than a 3 technique. So we treat him as a 3 technique because if he doesn't line up in a 3, which he does a lot, he's going to play to a 3. And we're zoning to the backside backer. So that guard, because of the proximity of the stack backer, that backside guard should not be in any rush. He's got plenty of time to step to the 4-eye and let it develop and then come off late. The tailback's reading the middle backer, so the middle backer fills, so he's got to cut off the middle backer. That tackle's got to come off a little. Tackle's in a tough spot, but if the tackle could come off on that backside stack back, look at it from the end zone, it's probably better film. The right guard's a little high, step, he comes off a little too soon. Left guard and left tackle, same defense. We're zoning to that backside backer. That's better. Now, we talked about the block before lunch. We talked about the block of the center and the guard. Really, the most important thing the center and the guard have to do is stop penetration by the nose guard. Regardless of where the middle backer goes, we should be okay because the tailback's reading the middle backer and he's going opposite. So in this play, on this ISO versus this defense, the left guard and the left tackle have to have a front side mentality. Because that ball, most of the time, that ball's going to cut back because that middle linebacker most of the time is going to go play side. And that means that the stress is going to be on the backside guard, tackle, and tight end. Tight end's on a man scheme. There's the one guy who's single blocking somebody by himself other than a tight end is the right tackle. That's who makes the play. That's how most of our plays would look like, most of our blocks would look like if we blocked one-on-one. It'd be 2nd and 9. Backside guard and left guard and left tackle. Good footwork by both guys. The right tackle's footwork could be a little more set step parallel. He gains a little bit too much ground. 72 is the Bell kid from Catholic Central, left guard. Needs a little bit more punch when he climbs to the linebacker. And the problem's the right tackle. That's where we get hurt. The one single block. If he doesn't block it, if he doesn't miss that block, we're gonna have a crease right back there, right off that combination block between the tackle and the tight end. Right tackle and tight end, right tackle and right guard. That's well done, except we don't get the ball back to the backside. Tailback's reading the middle backer, so the middle backer sits up underneath. Now the importance of that backside Ted is not a big a deal because the backer forces him to keep a play side. Watch 45. Wherever he goes, the tailback's going to go opposite. If 45 does scrape play side, then the key block is going to be right here. If he keeps the play side, then it's the slow slip that we talked about before lunch that becomes the most important block. The slow George, what we call a slow George, which is part of our ISO, which I think is one of the better things we do. We try to get a lot of push on the nose guard, and we want to come off late on the it says eagle backer up there. That should be inside backer. It's this defense here. If we run the ISO, to this side right here, which we do some, we put the fullback on the eagle backer. The critical block on this play is the block on those two. That situation right there is the most critical because most likely that ball is going to be cut back. And this play is a real key to what we're trying to do offensively. As that quarterback brings that ball there, this side of the defense has to play the option because the threat of the option that's going to the split end. Now, depending on how hard the backside wants to either play the ISO to the split end or the option to the split end really depends on really dictates how we call plays. So if we get to a point where we want to call the ISO because of the way they're defending us, the key block is going to wind up being what we call the slow George. And it's a power scheme. We're trying to push the nose guard off the line of scrimmage and trying to come off on the linebacker late. Center guard combination used on cutback plays, 12 and 13. So the other thing is, from a mental standpoint and a teaching standpoint, is when we put the play in, a big part of the way we implement the play is that everyone is play side. There is no such thing as a backside player in this play. The block of this backside tackle who base cuts and the backside tight end who base cuts and the block of the backside guard in the center are as critical as if I'm playing right guard and right tackle. Even though, yes, Coach? It depends. I'll show you on film. Depends which way he sits. I've got film where they both come. It's going to be late, whoever it is. It should be late. Some of them, they go too fast. But the biggest thing is to get movement, stop penetration, because penetration stops the tailback game, and then come off on the inside backer late. Steps, center set step to the technique, bringing your second step upfield, head placement to outside number to armpit of nose, eyeballing linebacker. Guard set step to technique, punch inside number to armpit, eyeing the linebacker. So here's what we do. If I'm the center and I've got a one shade there, which is where we want to run the play most of the time, is I'm going to set step to the shade and I'm going to work up the field. If I'm the guard, the center's there and I've got a one shade, I'm going to step to the one shade, work up the field and get push on the nose guard, come off late on the linebacker. So very rarely does it happen quickly. It should happen as slow. The slower, the better. Okay, this is versus a zero nose. Now, we do not do it as much versus a zero nose as we do a shade. I've got some shades in here. Nothing looks good against this group. You can see the guard coming off. Let me go to a shade. This is still a zero nose. Okay, there's the guard coming off on the backside. Good first step by the center. Guard's not square enough. Guard gets his shoulders turned right there. He should be square. Okay, this is really the defense the technique was designed for. You've got a 3 and a 5 to the split end. You've got a 1 shade to the tight end, and you want to run ISO by starting it towards the 3 and a 5 technique to the field. Now, he comes off too soon there. There's no rush. Look where the ball, when that center comes off, that center's off too soon before the tailback gets to the line of scrimmage. He's going to have to hold his block sooner, and he's really going to put his right guard in stress. He's got to slow that thing way down. Watch the right guard in the center. The right guard should set step with his left foot and get his left hand right there. Now that center's a little too high, and he comes off way too fast. Set. Right guard in the center. The center should step with his right foot. Back to the technique. That's good. Right there is good. Now, they've just got to slow it down, and whatever side that linebacker shows, when they bring the nose to the linebacker, that's who should come off it.
Coach, ever occasionally drop step that guard? Instead of that step?
No, we haven't. You know, I don't know why. We haven't tried it. It'll look better here from the end zone. Okay, center steps with his right foot. Guard steps with his left foot. I don't know that that's what the center's doing. It's hard to see his feet. He's a little high. That's well done by the guard coming off. See right there, I believe that linebacker is playing option to the field, and that allows us to hit that seam when that guy goes in motion right there. Now we have cut the defense. If he can hold his block and he can hold his block, and we can slow George's thing, there's going to be a seam right there because the rest of the defense is playing the threat of the option to the play side. If they're not flowing that fast, then we ought to be running the option. Okay, now this is the same technique, but versus a 2-eye. So the right guard should sink to 2-eye. He should set step with his left foot. The center should set step with his right foot. They should get push on the 2-eye and come off on the linebacker late. Again, one reason we see this is if you run a triple option to the tight end, which is a good play in our offense, and you double team the center, the way people shore up the tight end option game is to slide the nose. And it does help them against the option game. And what this formation gives us that the wishbone didn't was a counter to that defensive move. So if they start in reduction with a one shade and you're hurting them to the tight end option, then they move the nose, then you should come back and run the ISO, because now that slow George play, the slow George technique rather, that center and right guard's doing, you ought to be able to do it when the center's uncovered. We don't get it through there for enough. Same play. So the center should step with his right foot, the guard with his left. It's hard for the center not to get turned, but he's got to try to stay as square as he can for as long as he can, but it's hard. One way that the guard can help him is to step hard to the inside with that left foot to sink him, to bring the nose towards the center. See, all the one-on-one blocks, hopefully there's not any stress on them. In other words, that left tackle is probably a very average athlete, ought to be able just to threaten the outside shoulder of that better athlete. The guard, who's probably a little better athlete than the tackle, ought to be able just to keep the three technique at bay. The fullback's block on the eagle backer is not a kill smash face block. So if the play is successful because of the combination blocks, then you have a better chance if you have a real average athlete up front. So if you combine their blocks and make sure that the combination block is the most important to succeeding in the play, then that helps you. If the success of the play depends on a base block, we have no chance. If the success of the play depends on some kind of double team, veer release, triple, option, or combination block, then we give these guys a chance to have a little bit of success because they're playing against a better athlete on defense. Okay, this is unbalanced formation. ISO to the split end. Again, combination block on the nose. Center comes off too fast, I believe. It's got too much weight forward. The center, in that case, that center stepping left. He ought to snap the ball and step and be a little bit more under control. He's stepping, he's got all his weight forward, which is what gets him in trouble. His center of gravity is not good. Same play. The nose is tilted a little bit, doesn't change anything. The guard gains a little too much ground as well. See the penetration? There's penetration, the nose splits us. And it's because the guard's step is too far up the field and the center's weight is too far forward. There's no rush. They've got time before the tailback gets to the line of scrimmage. You want a time to block up so that right as the tailback's making his cut at the line of scrimmage, somebody's coming off the nose guard. And you got to look at the depth of your tailback to make sure that it's all timing up right. Okay, we're going left here. Now this time I think the nose crosses the face of the center. Okay, there it is versus a 30 front. It's not as good versus 30. You ought to be running more option versus 30 than tailback. As a good look at the backside tackle and tight end on a base cut technique, which is a man technique. The one thing the center does do well here is he stays on the nose. If it was a regular George, if it was a regular George being a backside center and guard technique on a perimeter play, that center would come off right now because then the premium would be on pursuit. On this play, the premium is not on pursuit, it's on stop and penetration and coming off on the linebacker late. And so he makes a good decision here, although his technique's not great, he makes a good decision by staying on the nose guard as opposed to working to the next level right away. If that was a perimeter play, then he'd be wrong. He should have came right off in the linebacker, because on a perimeter play, you can take a little bit of penetration, but you want to cut the pursuit of the defense by cutting the linebackers. Center and right guard. It happens a lot faster than it usually does. Again, it's not a scheme necessarily versus a 30 front, although when they shade like this, it's better. And I can't remember, it may have been why we're doing it. This looks like reduction. That's good step by the center, though. Steps to the shade. The guard set steps. Here he works. Let me go to the end zone. Should be the center and the right guard. Nose guard works away right away. Linebacker comes to the second level. Usually do not cut on this play. If it's a regular George where the ball's going on the perimeter, then you cut the linebackers. If it's a slow George when the ball's probably going to be inside the tackles, you should stay up. I don't know why he cuts here.